The metagame shifts have been almost very unrealistic at this point to see how much the game has shifted within the small window of this format. Don't be like the 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-loving crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Now, earlier in the week, I talked about evenly matched, returning back into the format at a crazy pace, all right? Like, if you have looked through so many of these events and things, you're going to notice one very common theme. Kashtira has adopted evenly matched as this crazy power card that has allowed them to actually kind of overcome some of their issues, which is the chance to push through some of these matchups that weren't particularly, I guess, like winnable per se. And not to say that the card is so broken, but it really does beg the question now that Evenly did get a reprint, and now that we've kind of opened up the doors for like a going second-esque format here, you know, especially, don't think that Kashtira is not the only deck that's playing this, because I mean Trap Tricks is doing the exact same thing. Actually, I think those might be the only two, because I haven't seen Mathmech playing evenly matched. I haven't seen Rika. Actually, I do think it is those only two, because Despy is certainly not doing it. So at least in terms of like your big innovations out here in the format, I do got to give a shout out to evenly matched here. You know, it has shown up in such a amazing pace, and I've already heard people go, I think that we need to ban evenly matched. I'm just like, come on. Like, going second, Sky Striker played evenly for so long, and now people are now wanting evenly matched banned. I don't know. We'll talk about that more in another video, but evenly is shifting the metagame at a very interesting pace. Now, on the same topic of like the metagame shifting here, there's the Kaiju. Oh my gosh, I'm so... First of all, the whole thing with this format was, if you wanted to beat Kashtira, Sphere Mode and Lava Golem were typically, maybe not so much Sphere Mode. Sphere Mode was like if your opponent like fully extended and did the nuts, but from what I've seen from a couple of people, just talking to Kashtira players at the regional, they were like, yeah, I just made a Rise Heart pass and it was good enough. And as odd as that is, if your opponent's playing Lava Golems, things like that, and you're just ending on a very small board, well, they're not going to get a chance to do anything. That's where enter into the Kaijus right now. Now, this has been, I've seen this at a couple regionals. It wasn't really a very huge turn of events from what I was noticing here, but we have started to see Kaijus kind of enter in. I think as more of this format develops, as we head on into the next set here, Kaijus, I think, are going to be more of the real consideration here. Because while Lava Golem does clean up more, players have figured out the fact that they can play around it simply by just having, you know, one monster on the field. It's literally as simple as that. And if players are starting to figure out that, hey, you know, I don't need to dedicate a relatively huge field to this, you know, I can just very simply, you know, call it a day with just a single, I mean, that's fine. But now that you're seeing, you know, actually Kumamungus was the Kaiju. I did see some Lightning Strike Kaijus showing up in terms of Despia having use for them, but I mean, you've got Kaijus returning back in full swing now in the format. So that's incredibly nice. Now, there is the rogue factor right now. Now, if you've lived underneath a rock, and I don't know why you've lived underneath a rock at this point, but realistically, if you've been paying attention, there's so many rogue decks right now that we're seeing that have come to light. And at this point in time, I don't even think I can really call Mathmech Rogue anymore. The deck has been a huge, heavy-hitting metagame contender. I think more than half of the regionals that I've had the chance to cover as of late has had a Mathmech variant in the top cut, all right? Like, it's been such a mainstay deck at this point in time that players just aren't really... Still to this point in time, they're just not aware of how to play around Mathmech. Alright, Bysteals help, but Bysteals have returned back to dormancy. I mean, you'll still see them show up every blue moon, but that's one really big thing to consider here, at least in terms of things. And I mean, once again, it proves that the meta's not really that unwinnable. The only real big shifts that I've seen, and I still continue to say this in a lot of these videos, and I still get slammed for it, but Labyrinth's representation has been pushing down. You can't tell me that it hasn't been. Looking at the global data, you will have a successful version every blue moon, but a lot of these lists that you do see in terms of like regionals, there's not a lot of Labyrinth pushing through. And I also want to blame Evenly Matched for doing that. Also, a lot of builds are still playing Eradicator Epidemic Virus out here. Flipping that, declaring Trap, in the right position will get you, a free win at the end of the day. And then, of course, I guess we should also probably talk about Trap Trick in terms of the things that Trap Trick's been doing. Trap Trick's been main decking Evenly Matched as well, so back on the topic of evenly for decks that have been doing it. Trap Trick's evenly matching your opponent, proceeding to laugh, setting up an entire full trap board against your opponent, offering them the handshake. Your opponent's not playing through that. Like, it's the same thing with Kashtira. Kashtira goes second, evenly's your field, drops down the Fenrir/Unicorn, proceeds to laugh all the way to, the Shangri-La for the zone lock, all right? Like, unfortunately, that's the game plan right now. We've reached the point now that you can clean up an entire field and be absolutely fine. Now, the abnormalities. I've seen Evil Eye, Generator, Invoke to Mech Knight. Plunder Patrol's got a couple of tops. It hasn't been like a one outlier. It's been a good couple of outliers at this stage. So you've got a good amount of consistency kind of showcasing for that, which is kind of interesting. Marincess is, I think we've had one Marincess lit, 1 to 2 every week. So once again, players not really playing around, the fact that deck still exists. You've had Drytron coming back as well. Once again, Mathmech and Drytron do have something very much in common, which was, hey, Bice deals, go to sleep, I wake back up. But Mathmech's been pulling in way more numbers, I feel like, as of late. Dragon Link has also made a very stunning return back to the meta as well. Dragon Link has had some pretty strong numbers as of late, and I'm actually genuinely surprised to see just how much we have seen Dragon Link actually smashing through a lot of the competition here. Now, I will tell you that I did finally see Ninja get a top 8 at a regional, not like a side event at a regional or at a YCS, an actual top 8 out of a regional. It actually finally happened. Maybe there was another one before that, but I believe the only 1 or 2 that I had on record was like an OTS championship and a side event at a YCS. So 4 rounds, I think, for 16 people flights, if I recall. For that, those are the only 2 I can remember off the top of my head. But we actually have one coming up. I actually would love the chance to talk about the Winnipeg Regional, but I don't have much info on it. So if you have any info, actually if you have anything out of some of these regionals, I'd love the chance to talk about some of them. But info is just so far in between. There were, I think, 32 to 33 regionals. Think about that out of last weekend alone. And that's a lot of info to cover. I'm going to do as much as I can for you to cover that. But, every region is different. The big fact is every region is completely different. And you do see different vastness of information. And because, these are regionals, they are going to be, chained by their regional components. That was a lot of words there. Regionals are determined by the amount of players that attend the regional and also the localized metagame of said region as well. So not every region will be different, but it is interesting to see the inclusion of, the overall data. I mean, to nobody's surprise, Kashtira is back on top in terms of sheer representation and numbers. You have actually Sprite behind it now, actually surpassing Branded in terms of overall tops for the week that I've seen recorded. That doesn't mean overall, because there's a lot of data missing. We'll never have a perfect completion chart of everything, but that's just what we're kind of seeing right now. Robbie, Kashtira is not the best deck in the room. Players saying, well, when you're packing in about 40 tops versus the next closest deck that's packing in 15, you kind of gotta wonder, do players really know what they're talking about out here in terms of numbers? So, very, very interesting. And nonetheless, but format, it's fantastic. It's great. It's amazing. I think at the rate we're going, we'll see a lot of this transition over next set. You can definitely bet your butt Purely's probably going to be sitting at the dinner table with the support it's getting next set. And I definitely will tell you, I'm looking forward to that. Also, probably Gold Pride will probably step up to the plate as well. But I am very interested to see the overall potential of what's to come. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below what you guys think. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.